Good afternoon. My name is Tan Chi. I understand that Faisal Ali has been having issues on employment law. After looking at his file, I have identified possible issues that are in breach of Equality Act 2010, such as harassment, victimization, and direct discrimination. A claimant generally can sue if they are within a 3-month time limit, although in cases of continuing acts of discrimination, claims can be up to 3 months of the last act if convicted. Since Faisal has been made fun of frequently, Faisal should take action against his employer Create Advertising, and more specifically his team leader James Ponsonby, as they can be liable for any discrimination by employees in the course of their employment under Section 109 of the Equality Act 2010. The burden of proof is on Faisal to establish that discrimination has occurred on a balance of probabilities, while Create Advertising must then prove otherwise. The first issue to be addressed here is the harassment due to banter. Part 4 of the Equality Act 2010 identifies 9 characteristics that should be protected, including race, gender, disability, and so on. The Act prohibits conduct such as discrimination, victimization, or harassment on the basis of the protected characteristics. Employers have a duty to protect all employees from conducts these conducts at all stages of employment. Section 26 of the Equality Act 2010 states that a person A harasses another person B if A engages in unwanted conduct related to a protected characteristic, and the conduct has the purpose or effect of violating B's dignity or creating an intimidating, hostile, degrading, humiliating, or offensive environment for B. Furthermore, an unwanted conduct includes banter, jokes, facial expressions, and so on and so forth. On the facts, James has frequently made fun of Faisal's Pakistani accent at team meetings and referred to one of the receptionists at the company originally from Afghanistan as the terrorist. This would construe as harassment since Faisal's Pakistani accent would be a direct relation to his race, and James has engaged in unwanted conduct that violates his protected characteristic. Furthermore, James has also suggested that he as in Faisal, has secretly attended a terrorist training camp in Pakistan. This would also constitute as harassment since it violates the protected characteristic, and suggesting that since Faisal is from Pakistan, he is stereotypically a terrorist. Furthermore, this harassment is not a one-off occurrence and has been going on frequently. And when Faisal has attempted to object to James's conduct, James has denied and said he meant nothing by it and it was just office banter. The second issue to be addressed is direct discrimination. Under Section 13 of the Equality Act 2010, direct discrimination occurs when a person is treated less favorably because of a protected characteristic. Under Section 23, a claimant who claims under direct discrimination must choose a comparator, real or hypothetical, whose circumstances are not materially different and who has not suffered less favorable treatment. On the facts, Faisal Ali and his team has been working hard on the presentation for 2 months. Up until last week, he was told by James that by to he would not be required to be present to the presentation. However, he discovered that the whole team, excluding him, has been invited to the presentation. This made Faisal feel disgusted and humiliated that he filed a complaint to the HR. And the test to be applied was objective, and if applying it, the answer would have been that the plaintiff would have received the same treatment but for his discrimination. On the facts, Faisal, the only difference between Faisal and his team is that he is of Pakistani origin. Therefore, the only reason that he would be excluded from the presentation is for his race, and it would be direct discrimination from James Ponsonby and the team. The third issue to be addressed here is victimization. Section 27 of the Equality Act 2010 states that a person A victimizes another person B if A subjects B to a detriment because B does a protected act or A believes that B has done or may do a protected act. Section 27 subsection 2 states that each of the following is a protected act: bringing proceedings under this act, giving evidence or information in connection with proceedings under this act, or doing any other thing for the purposes of or in connection with this act. On the facts, after the complaint from Faisal Ali towards the Human Resources Department, he was called in to James's office and reprimanded for his actions. James then unfairly disallowed Faisal to work from home with the excuse that Faisal was viewing a flat when he was working from home and abusing his privilege. This is an unfair reprimandation, since the only reason that James would reprimand Faisal is that he was complained to the Human Resources Department. In the case of St. Helens Borough Council against Derbyshire and others, Baroness Hale of Richmond states that held that if one asks the simple question, why did these employers send the letters? There can only be one answer: because these women were pursuing their claims for equal pay even though the others had settled. On the facts, if one simply asks the simple question, why did James disallow Faisal to work from home? There can only be one answer, whereby Faisal has submitted his complaint to the HR department. Now that we have looked into all three issues, we can now move on to the remedies that potentially could be awarded to Faisal Ali if he takes action against his employers. There are two remedies that would be applicable to Faisal Ali's situation. First of all, recommendation. Under Section 124, subsection 3 of the Equalities Act 2010, the courts can recommend employers to take steps to obviate or reduce the effect of discrimination on the claimant. On the facts, Faisal Ali could utilize this recommendation so that James Ponsonby would not continue the office banter that would discriminate against his race. Secondly, compensation. Faisal Ali could request for compensation from his employer or James Ponsonby for his injury to feelings, his exclusion from the presentation, and his right to work from home. And compensation would also include damages for in, include his injury to his feelings. Thank you.